What if medicine isn't in medicine, but in what remains when medicine diminishes? Hi, everyone. I am Lady Drasmin, one of the co-hosts for the He Vibes, She Dives podcast. And this is my solo episode for Season 2, Series 5, Cacao and Plant Allies. And today I will be taking a different look at medicine and invite you into this alternative perspective, into a more intentional and conscious use of any medicine, any plant allies, any substances that you use for your healing and wellness. So in this season of the podcast, I have been breaking down words and giving different action pathways and sharing with you this gift of mine that I have developed over the years through practice and use. And it's been really exciting for me to share these little acronym breakdowns with y'all. And I admit I was a little stumped around what to talk about, because I spoke much in the duo episode with my fellow co-host Timber, and then he brought in a really important message about what if Mama Gaia is the plant medicine, which I would 100% agree with. Curious to know your thoughts. And if you're curious to hear his episode and you haven't caught it yet, the full playlist is in the description box of this video. So as I rewatched that duo episode and I was really allowing myself to receive the transmission, I received an acronym for the word medicine, which just aligns and makes such perfect sense. And I've been so excited to share this with you because this is just fresh, hot off the press. And it ties in the wisdom that I have often shared over the years that was passed down to me by my elders, which is that the medicine, the plant allies, the substance is the key, but how we integrate, the integration in the daily life, that is what helps us truly receive and integrate the medicine. So the integration happens sober, so to speak, but the medicine gives you the keys. And so the whole point that we take medicine is because we don't feel good. We want to feel good. That is our highest joy, our highest purpose of being, is to feel good, to feel pleasure, to express desire, to experience belonging and connection. And when those needs aren't met, we naturally reach for those outside of us. And medicine can turn into poison very quickly, depending on dosage. And so in the current world, there is can't really say that anymore, actually. There is a return now to more original medicine, plant medicine, and the collapse of big pharma, which is really exciting to see because a lot of the pharmaceuticals have stripped away that direct connection to the spirit of the plant allies that bring their medicine forward so that we can experience greater pleasure within ourselves and thus with our relationships and in our experiences in everyday life. So the purpose of medicine is usually because we want to feel good about something that doesn't feel right. So the action of medicine is movement. It is moving something that is unwanted inside out. Or in the reverse, it could be bringing something good in, because some medicines are really wonderful for daily wellness and well-being. And I am speaking directly into the direct connection and use of plant allies, not the synthesized pharmaceutical versions of medicines. Very clear distinction here that I might bring in a couple more times, because my connection with medicine has strictly been plants for a little over a decade now. And I don't even have aspirin in my home. For my moon time, for my cramps, it's all herbs. It's all plants. They're not necessarily all psychoactive, but they're all plants. They come directly from the earth. The soil grew them. I listen and I receive them. And I also make medicine for others who are open to and seeking that support. So there's nothing wrong with medicine. There's nothing wrong with connecting with plant allies as medicine. I don't really practice concepts of right and wrong. For the sake of this conversation, I'm bringing into the awareness in the field this greater understanding I have tapped into of how do we create a relationship with the sentient life that we are and that we coexist with, so that we can experience greater pleasure, which is the whole point of being in this human experience. So we are creating some kind of movement to ultimately experience some form of pleasure, some kind of new now experience. Looking at my notes here. So the pleasure in medicine is experienced through the integration and because of the integration, the sitting with the medicine that happens when you're not with the medicine. So I talked about how when we participate with plant allies, there is a movement that's happening, and that is the first letter in medicine is M. M, medicine, it creates movement. It jumpstarts our heart. It jumpstarts our system back online. It's like, this plant ally, this medicine, this substance, is it truly jumpstarting your heart? Is it truly bringing you back online? Is it expanding you? That's E. Medicine, M-E. Is it expanding you? D, discernment. Is it allowing you to tap more of into yourself? So then, wait, does that mean that eventually I will get to a point where I don't need the medicine? Absolutely. And then you can just choose to participate with an experience. You cannot continuously stay in a cycle of healing. You're not always going to be at the doctor's office. You're not always going to be spending time at the hospital. You're not always going to be laying in bed with a fever. We don't need to be continuously participating and consuming plant medicines and saying, oh, I'm taking this because I'm sick. That is when we start dipping away from our discernment and our truth and slipping into disassociation. So again, I'm inviting this mental relationship with the plant allies, with the medicines and with the substances that you're using by breaking down the language and the steps through which I have worked with plant allies, and thus this pathway has now coalesced and like, oh, of course, this all clicks. So the medicine comes in, it creates movement, it jumpstarts the heart, it gives us that okay, I can keep going now. I can keep going because I have the medicine now that makes me feel a little better. Sometimes we need that support. And that expands us. Now we have discernment. Okay, now we start to look at truth versus illusion. What did I take this medicine for? What did I connect to this plant ally for? This is why sitting once with Mama Ayahuasca can be more than enough. You can spend your entire life just reconnecting with the spirit, the sentient spirit, the energy of the plant. And you might not even need to sit with Mama Aya. You might already be connected. And that goes into a different conversation of quantum energetics. But we're not going there. We're staying here today. So the medicine comes in, M for movement, E expands, D discernment, truth or illusion. Where is that happening? That's happening inside. M-E-D-I, it's happening inside, right? We're acknowledging now there is duality. Often people don't go for medicine, don't go for plant allies, don't go for substances, don't go for, yes, there's a time and a place for modern medicine, pharmaceuticals, there's a time and a place for that, absolutely. But usually people go because they're experiencing pain. And there is a resistance to whatever is dying within, whatever is needing to be acknowledged within, whether that's whatever kind of imbalance is in the body, whether that's something physical, something energetic, something emotional, right? And so when we tap inside, we start recognizing the duality, that all of this is always existing within, as within, so without. The complexity and the simplicity of life that we witness around, we are experiencing within ourselves at all times. We see our insides. We see that duality within. Who has ever had a fever that has just been absolute like night terrors and sweats and chills, and you're just like at this like war where you're like, you just feel like absolute crap, but you also like know that you're not always gonna feel this way because you felt better more days in your life, fingers crossed, right? And you then have this clarity of like, what do I need versus what do I want? This clarity comes through, the fever breaks, and it's like rain, sunshine after rain. It's like rainbows after a heavy rain, right? This clarity comes through of like, whoa, all of this exists within me. This is why whenever we tap into the consciousness of plant allies, no matter whether it's a potent tea made by a ceremonialist, or Mama Ayahuasca journey, or cannabis, or DMT, or psilocybin, or cacao, or blue lotus, or whatever plant ally connection you might have, there's always like this feeling of, I want more of that. I want more of that connection, because it's a sentient living connection. And so we can create an intentional relationship with the allies, the plant allies that are communing with us and supporting us with giving us the pleasure that we're seeking, whether it's greater creative awareness, whether it's the ability to have more cognitive function in everyday life, whether it's the ability to speak in public, or relax after speaking in public, because that's a lot for the nervous system. It doesn't matter the purpose, right? Like ultimately it's about feeling good. Yet we can create an intentional relationship where we're not just relying on a substance, creating addiction, creating more upset, more imbalance, right? By overreaching for one thing, now you've created imbalance in another part of yourself. And then instead of addressing the overreaching, you reach for another thing. Now you're more imbalanced. And then you create and reach for another thing, and that creates more imbalance. And then you're all tweaked out and you can't even walk straight. You can't think straight. You're all cloudy, fuzzy, obese, overweight. This is the loop that Big Pharma played into. synthesizing and extracting rather than giving you the whole plant, so that, or just allowing the elders to continue with their traditional medicines, allowing the women healers to remain in the clinics. Women were wiped out from being a part of service to medicine for years. There were no female doctors. And so, like, there has been systematic for generations programming around disconnecting people from the ability to create an intentional living relationship with plant allies, and beyond just like actual plant allies that intentionally sit with. You can also have this intentional relationship with your food, with growing food, with eating food that is local to you. Science continues to show again and again, and as our ancestors, our elders, ancient texts of medicine, were using a lot of original medicine, because there wasn't a whole lot of synthetic medicine until the last 200 some years. And so there's this deeper, no, more than 200 years. Excuse me there. That was incorrect. Coming back to this recognition that there's nothing inherently wrong with medicine. It is the intentional harm that was brought in and displaced communities that have been slowly coming back together, generations that have been and will continue to be healing, right? The medicine is going to continue to bring that movement in, to expand us into higher states of understanding and awareness and connection. So on one hand, the abuse of plant allies has created fracture in collective consciousness, but it has also upset the imbalance. The imbalance has upset the imbalance, and it's all colliding, and we're in this timeline of recalibrating into balanced use, balanced relationship. There is a previous podcast episode where I, Timber, and us individually dive deeper into balance, duality, and harmony. And I break down the word harmony. No, I break down the word problems. Harmony, finding harmony through problems. So you are welcome to go check that teaching out as a way to work in the sober world when you are not sitting with medicine. So we're inside, the fever breaks. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I can just finally think straight after 3 days of feeling like absolute dog. And now we're just like in a new place. We're like, okay, what do we do now? There it is. That space between waking up from sleep or shifting away from a place of stillness, a bath, a meditative trance, watching a sunset. The moment you shift out from like that deep, like peaceful rest to eyes open before you're fully alert, that's when you have your highest clarity. What are the brain waves? I believe they are the beta waves that are active most at that time, especially when you wake up after long nights of deep REM sleep. And when you pay attention to that more and more, A, you'll start to remember your dreams more. B, you will be able to be more tapped into your blink response. And I've spoken into this in past teachings of how when we encounter an experience or a person or whatever it might be in the external world, and we are considering engaging with it, we immediately know whether we should or shouldn't. It's like, yes, no. It's very clear. But then the monkey brain goes around, and then we come back to, oh, I should have known. I did know. I was right. Right? That point, that muscle gets expanded the more you pay attention to that. So as you're coming down from your medicine experience, before you reach for the next hit, sit in that discomfort of not having that in your system. You're completely sober. The fever broke. And that will invite the new experience. INE, invite the new now experience. MEDICINE, the movement that medicine brings expands the discernment inside, which awakens clarity and invites a new now experience. Whew! I had tingles when I wrote that down. That new now experience is that aliveness of your being. That new now experience, I received the medicine through the words. I receive the medicine through sharing this with you, right? There is pleasure in my discovery. There's pleasure in the sharing of my discovery. This makes me think of an art gallery showing that I was in recently. And I invited someone I had just met at a grocery store to come check out this group exhibition. And when he arrived, he looked at the art piece and he said, tell me more about this piece. And I looked at him and I said, if I could speak about it, I wouldn't paint. And now that it's on canvas and it's on the wall, I'm more interested in your experience of it, because this is no longer just about me and my story. And he was like, that's very interesting. And he sat and he stood there and he watched, looked at the painting, and I walked away, and then I came back, and then he was sharing his insight. And later that evening, a friend of mine who had been there with me the whole evening had spoken to this young man and found out that this was his first art show. He'd never been to an art show ever. He's never been to a gallery. He's never gone and looked at art. This man in his late 20s. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then he said, my friend said to me, and what you said to him, he said, was medicine that healed his soul. And I was like, wow. He said, you told him that art is what it speaks to you in the moment. You didn't program him with your own experience and your color theory and all your stuff, which is beautiful. The process is also beautiful. I love knowing the process of some art. And you know, that makes me think of how art is also medicine. It creates a movement of emotion inside. It creates a movement of perspective inside. And in that moment for that young man, that's what he needed. He needed to be reminded of his ability to imagine. And my invitation to him awakened that for him that night. And he shared that with my friend, who then shared it with me. And he used the word medicine. He's like, I didn't know that art could be medicine. And it just brought me to tears, because I was very tired and grumpy by the end of the night. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, just enjoy the art. Like, you know, I had all these sarcastic responses in my head. But I stayed within myself because I was fairly centered in that moment, and I have had a few art exhibitions, so I've cultivated the language on how to welcome people into it. But I was definitely tired in that moment, so I was glad that he did not pick up on any energy. And I was glad that he had a really good experience in the allowing of him to just receive that. And him discovering that art could be medicine without me even voicing that, right? I created a movement for him. I distilled a medicine to him that neither of us had realized in the moment until it was voiced much later. So again, medicine is more than plant allies. It is more than substance. It is beauty. It is love. It is connection. Anything that creates movement within so that we can experience greater pleasure in our daily being, in our relationships, in our service. No wonder this world has so many beautiful options on how we can experience pleasure. And pleasure and pain travel on the same pathways, same neural pathways, the same nervous system. This spinal column houses the main central nervous system through which all the messages are going through to your body at all times. It is literally the main highway. It's connected to your brainstem, and it sends all the messages. So a lot of the functions that are happening subconsciously without your direct attention and command, like your heartbeat, your lungs, your digestion, there's so much happening inside that you're not consciously programming. It's working for you already. Your body is literally working for you. So if something is stuck in there, there's going to be that impulse. I need a medicine. I need a ceremony. I would like a session. I would hope that I'd never have a client that's with me for the rest of their life. That means I'm doing my work wrong. There was the right word, use of the word wrong. But my clients usually do work with me for many years because sometimes there's a medicine journey, sometimes they're not. Most of my clients haven't sat with medicine, or they come to me after sitting with medicine because they get fractured and they get more imbalanced, right? It's like you get medicine and you have a side effect, right? That happens when you don't know how to fully ground in what clarity, what is expanding, what is coming through, the inner expansions that are happening because of all this movement within. Emotional movement, mental movement, spiritual movement, physical movement. There's something inside, and if that's not addressed, it just creates more imbalance, more disease, more dysfunction, more disassociation, more depression. You get the picture here. So we say, okay, I don't need to sit with Mama Ayahuasca every awakened. There are several organizations who serve in this way, and no, this is not in integrity and in honor of the plant medicine. I have sat with Medicine Journey. I haven't sat with a psychoactive substance in, I don't remember how long, I'm being honest, because I have received what I need. I have received the transmission. And I am nourished in the relationships that I have now created with the earth directly, so that the pleasure isn't a seeking experience, it's a lived experience. I'm always or almost always experiencing pleasure. I'll give another example of medicine to begin to wrap up this teaching today, and this sharing around how to work with plant allies. And if any of you have been following me for a while, thank you so much for your continued presence and support. It truly means so much that some of you have been with me since the beginning, which is now, I don't know, 6-7 years of being on this YouTube visual, audio. What is this word that I'm looking for? Isn't it amazing? Sometimes I have the perfect words and sometimes I just don't have the words. Recording myself. There's the word. Because before that, everything was just in person. There was no recordings. So those of you who have been with me for a while also know through my oral and written journeys about my journey with my hands and pain and grief and living with people. You know, people provide the mirrors. We grow in the mirror of relating. I have come to realize that one of the ways that I work with pain and alchemize it and carry myself gently through it is humming and singing. And that's a medicine. Humming and singing is creating movement of energy. Yes, this hurts very much and I can't really do much with my hands today, but I can use my voice and share about a different kind of medicine and the songs that I find when my body hurts and my knuckles, do they ache, and my hands, do they turn purple? And yeah, it could be silly, I could sound batshit insane, but you know what? It's a choice. It's a choice to recognize that duality, right? That's that inside, that acknowledging that duality, that pain is a part of being in this human experience. And this is part of where I'm at in this current now. This is part of my soul contract in the current now, to experience certain levels of pain so that I can embody these teachings that I bring forward. And so I accept the paradoxical duality of being in this human experience and say, okay, well, I could be angry about it, or I could dope myself with medicine and just not be functional. I mean, you got free will. Or I could sing and I could drink tea with mullein and wormwood and black raspberry leaf and some other yummy herbs in there, and I can use CBD on my joints, and I can sing and I can find pleasure in everyday life to my best ability without bypassing my human experience. So humming and singing is also medicine. Why do you think it's banned in the Vatican? Demons don't like it when you sing. Imbalance gets really upset when you start singing. Think about that. So, medicine. There's pleasure that can be found in medicine, but the integration daily is how we learn to live life through the lens of pleasure without bypassing the waves that come and go. There will be sorrow, there will be hard times, there will be days where there is no singing and there's just laying on the couch weeping. We can have our soft comfies and do our best, right, to have at least some measure of comfort and pleasure in that moment. So again, what if this medicine isn't just in the medicine, but in what remains when the medicine diminishes? MEDICINE. Movement expands discernment, inside clarity, and invites new now experience. Thank you so much for being here and for receiving this transmission today. Would love to hear your thoughts, and you're welcome to share them in the comments or bring them to the live fourth Thursday of the month of the series. And Timber and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have and just connect with you. And I would especially be curious to know, what is the greatest medicine that you have experienced in your life? What is that one medicine that truly kickstarted you back to life? Share with me. I would love to know, and maybe it'll inspire something creative. Until we meet again, take care of your beautiful selves. Nourish, stay hydrated, integrate those medicines. Carry yourself gently. You are loved, here to love, and here to be loved. Ahe.